Hello folks, welcome to Infraspeak Talks. Today we're going to talk about technology trends and innovation in the cleaning industry. And my guest today is Paul Ashton, Chairman of the CSSA and CEO of Birkin Cleaning Group. I myself am Larry O'Brien and I'm the Country Manager for Infraspeak UK and Ireland. If I could introduce Paul and let Paul give a little 60-second intro or so to who he is, and he can tell you a little bit more about himself.
Perfect.
Paul?
Thanks very much, Larry. Thank you. So yes, Paul Ashton here really to represent the CSSA as Deputy Chairman, but also Chair for the Innovation and Technology Executive. And when I'm not doing that, I am running Birkin Cleaning Services, which is a national technology-led commercial cleaning business based out of Welwyn Garden City. So from a CSSA perspective, just want to take the opportunity to kind of explain what we're about. And really that's, we've kind of got 4 key objectives. So for us, it's about helping, cleaning businesses grow, because we appreciate in this current climate, it's important to keep moving things forwards. We want to help cleaning businesses stay compliant and legal. And again, in this day and age, it's ever so important. And for us, it's about delivering value to our members. And we want to lobby for change. We believe, that now more than ever before, cleaning, certainly frontline cleaning operatives need to be recognised for the huge contribution they make. And fourth, really is about making sure we're at the forefront of innovation. And really, that brings us on today. There's so much going off. It's almost hard to know where to turn. But certainly looking forward to this opportunity, particularly as chairing the Innovation and Technology Executive. For us, there is a lot of activity, and certainly from our members' perspective, our role as the executive is to help identify innovation both inside and outside of our industry that can make a positive difference and help tie in with the compliance, help tie in with the technology and innovation that's going on, and ultimately make sure we're representing our industry in the right light. So that's really what the CSSA is about. And from a Birkin perspective, that really does filter through. And as CSSA members, we find that we get great value out of our membership. And so for us, if I think about how Birkin has grown, we've kind of grown 150% over the last 4 years organically. That's really through embracing technology, integrate it into the business, which I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy because it really isn't. But that said, when you do it, when you put the time in, invest, the output, the results speak for themselves, and they do really make a huge difference. And it's fantastic to see how our industry is starting to really get in amongst it and actually represent and fly the flag and take tech on board and show all the great stuff that's going on. Okay. Hopefully that was useful, Larry.
Thank you very much, Paul. No, that was very useful and very informative. From my point of view, Larry O'Brien, as I said, Country Manager for Infraspeak. Infraspeak is, how can I say this? We're a world-class leading intelligent maintenance solution. We're a startup mentality, an organization that's now in 4 countries directly, and our product is used in 12 countries worldwide. We're all about enabling the customer through actually helping drive the business and drive the needs. So we started out by providing a mobile solution, which we then deployed to the technicians, and we get a great response from the end users of our product. We moved into then a management platform, allowing people to plan what they're doing, and then a customer or a direct platform. We enable 40,000 maintenance teams worldwide to get on with their tasks and responsibilities on a daily basis. And we work both with the cleaning industry as well as with service providers, facility management organizations, and also end user customer organizations. So retailers, hotels, etc. Infraspeak Talks, the session we're doing about, is just to talk about different things that we see in the marketplace. We're going to spend time with different people through each of these sessions to get their industry view of life. And today we're looking at the technology trends and innovation as it impacts the cleaning industry. Infraspeak ourselves, we won last year's, or it feels like last year's, we won one of the 2020 Innovation Awards sponsored by the CSSA. So we'll admit we know you guys and we love working with you, and hence it's really good to be doing this kind of technology session with yourself. Okay. We've got a number of areas, and Paul and I have just chatted around this, but this is going to be more of a conversation, looking at what's going on and get the observations from Paul, less input from me, but to talk about what we can see on the technology side. So we were going to start out from the simple perspective of what's the customer demanding, Paul? What do you see that the customer is actually asking the cleaning organizations to do, and how are they going about meeting those customer demands, especially in this time of COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, look, even I mean, I like to start pre-COVID. I mean, I guess it's hard to sometimes to kind of think back what seems like a lifetime ago, but certainly even pre-COVID, you know, there was a real trend where clients were really starting to, and they have been doing for recent years, the environment. So what are we doing as leaders of businesses, as an industry, in terms of using technology to reduce and minimize our impact on the environment? So from a sustainability, whether it's energy, water consumption, supply chain, smart route mapping, packaging. So there was a real focus in kind of where is tech driving those elements, because ultimately there's a huge there's this hardware, software discussion that is often happening when it comes to technology and innovation. And I guess the other thing we've seen is kind of the cobotics, cloud-based software in many different formats, whether it's HR, whether it's auditing, training platforms, management information, data everywhere sort of thing. But I guess really what we've seen with COVID is increased demand, drive, and expectation, because the pressure's on. All of a sudden, all eyes are on cleaning more so than ever before. You know, we've got a huge role to play within society in terms of getting the economy going again. And obviously, today's a very significant day. We've just gone into lockdown 2. But that said, schools are still open. You know, Birkin Clean, well over 150 schools now. So we've got this daily input, this daily role to play, which is pivotal. And there's still many buildings every single day that are going to require cleaning. So I guess for us, it's that trend of how is technology being used to support those frontline operatives. And it really is just, you know, in terms of what the client is expecting, they are expecting an enhanced level of proof of clean that we've never seen before. They want to know, you know, by the minute, by the second, who's on site, what cleaning's been done, where did it take place, how long was it cleaned for, what's been used. So the ability to evidence what we're doing, those client expectations are kind of on another level, and quite rightly so. And we've got to be using technology really to kind of link up and support our frontline operatives to make sure we're kind of proving everything that is taking place to reassure and provide that level of confidence.
Okay. I mean, it's great that you can see that. It's one of those interesting things I find, that you get market-led things, customers specifically asking for things, and you know, you get various levels of commitment to those requirements within the customer. Certain sectors much more about sustainability, others maybe more about the IT moving to the cloud and all these sort of things, and others much more about the overall service level. But I also see that you get the other end, where you and your suppliers can lead the customer forward. Sometimes on a journey you may have to encourage them to take, but actually overall, ideally, in terms of a journey that they will need to take, either because of legislation or changes, etc. And a couple of things you mentioned in that little intro are things that I think we'll come back to later. Data. I'm always going to come back to data, because we have the belief that you can never ever have too much data. And the more data you can passively acquire, the better. And likewise, another interesting concept you defined there was the proof of clean, or as one of the things I keep thinking of now is the difference between cleaning and sanitization.
Yeah.
So it's not just the proof of clean, it's potentially the proof of sanitization and the kind of feedback on the difference you're making. Now, to that end, obviously, we were going to talk about technology trends in general, but I'd be very interested in what you think are the leading technology trends that we see in there and how they split between the kind of, you mentioned cobotics. I find that very interesting. I think of that as a hardware solution, but we also mentioned the kind of proof of clean, which I view as potentially more of a software type solution. So from a kind of a hardware point of view, where do you see the tech trends going?
Undoubtedly, for me, and actually one of the things I find most exciting is seeing how cobotics is evolving. If we think back to the Amsterdam show a few years back, there was a huge step change in terms of the amount of cobotic displays and exhibitors. And actually, what we're now seeing is cobotics. Cobotics isn't new. You've got companies that have been investing in this for a number of years, but it's only now getting to a stage.
Sorry, Paul, I'm going to be really simplistic here and ask you, could you explain what you mean by cobotics? Because there's some people won't quite twig it.
Okay, so cobotics. So some people will say, well, is that not just robotics? Well, to a large degree, you could say, yes, it is. For me, and certainly the companies I've been speaking with, what we're seeing is cobotics need to be viewed as just that. They are cobotics. This is not about replacing human beings. This is about supporting frontline staff with reliable pieces of technology that can work, consistently deliver clean spaces, but ultimately allow the frontline operatives to focus on touch points, which, again, right now is more important than ever. But I think what we're seeing, so the cobotics for me is really, okay, it's another name for a robot, but actually it's a mindset, and actually,
point. That's why I think it was good people understand it, because as you said earlier on, you're not trying to replace. What you're trying to do is enhance your service offering.
Yeah, no, and I guess putting my Birkin cap on, that's where we've seen firsthand. We're on this journey where we can see this is where the industry is going. We can see how the technology is becoming more relevant. The price point is coming to you are now at a stage where you can say, right, okay, it makes sense. It stacks up. The financing options are there. So actually, how do we really integrate it into the business? Because ultimately, our 1,400 employees are hugely important to us, and the last thing we want to do is demotivate them. So, and there's lessons learned off the back of how we went about on our first couple of cobots that were introduced. But actually, when you genuinely make make them part of the team, and actually get your frontline operatives on board and engage with them, and really help show them the benefits of how this kit can work, the results are amazing. And actually that cobot piece is really important, and that's, for us, it's that, and again, I guess particularly in an education environment, and with the risk around human, our kind of employees and potentially self-isolation, the fact that we know that we've got, reliable pieces of technology that can go and clean large spaces day in, day out. They don't self-isolate. They do turn up every day. They've been incredibly reliable. The journey we've been on with ICE has been, I have to say, a journey, but it's been an exciting journey where we feel that we've been able to work with them, and that we feel that we're kind of driving things forwards. And I guess going back to the CSSA perspective on this, you can see from the range of equipment that's out. You've got companies like SoftBank Robotics, investing with the Wiz, and really pushing. They've got some great guys working for them. Killis have launched the Lions Bot. ICE have got their EcoBot range that we particularly use over on the Birkin side of things. So the range is only going to get more and more wider. The kind of even the smaller, which they're not exactly revolutionary in terms of they've been around for a few years, but the vacuums, the circular autonomous, the data that they're generating, their ability to clean spaces, their effectiveness, their ease of use, the battery life, the runtime, all of these things are progressing month by month, and it's going to get to, remember the day where you buy a laptop and within a year or two, it's out of date. I think that's almost the challenge that we've got to kind of have a sustainable journey, sustainable plan ahead, and I guess putting my CSSA cap on, it's about trying to help our members understand what is the technology that's most relevant to them. You know, it's I think we've gone from having cobots that were like Daleks that were, you know, hugely expensive, and they would suit that one particular building if it was mapped out and it had a person following it around. We've moved a long way from there, and it's exciting to see. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, being a software guy, I always smile at hardware because you always get the point, the inbuilt obsolescence type thing, whereas we're a cloud-based solution that, you know, the product you get from us today is different from the product you'll have in 18 months because you've seen that evolution. The nice thing is that you've seen that evolution within the cobotics, and you touched on the point there that the reliability factor that's moved there. You also mentioned, though, of cost side, because for many historically that's been a barrier to entry. I mean, the ROI and those things, obviously you've learned about that. How does that stand now for the smaller players in your marketplace?
There's a number of ways to finance these types of pieces of kit, you know, and certainly, you know, I think ultimately you are looking at it's a significant commitment, you know, and I guess in a world where, you know, there could be uncertainty over cleaning contracts, you know, let's face it, it is one of those natures where actually, yes, you know, you could have a contract that you could retain for 25 years. That said, with retendering, competitive tendering, new people coming to market, you know, there's always that risk. That said, you know, there's a number of different flexible options, and all I would recommend is people speak to different suppliers and explore those opportunities. You know, we've found that kind of the 5-year leasing options to typically, actually, we've now got it to a point where, due to the productivity savings that you can achieve, you know, it's a like for like. So there's no actual real cost impact to our clients, but the level of consistent service they're getting, you know, is absolutely a benefit and a differentiator. So I think you know, for me, from my CSSA perspective, it's really important that I want all members to know, small on large, that you need to explore these, speak to your suppliers, you know, whether it's a trial, whether it's bringing them in, you know, that there's often just real benefits that you will get out of being able to just have, you know, consistent levels of service, particularly in an age where, you know, we've got certain restrictions going on, particularly during the pandemic. But I just see this being, you know, each year as we go on, the price point for these is going to become more and more commercially viable. And I think the sooner people start exploring these options, you know, and it's not one size fits all. And I'm not suggesting it's you know, by next year they'll be in every single contract, but you can see from the range, the developments over the last 3 to 5 years, that it's just where our industry is going. And I think, coming back to what you talk about software, that's really interesting, because ultimately it's the brains, if you like, that are powering the hardware that are becoming more sophisticated, becoming more flexible. In the same way, you know, if you drive a Tesla, it does all the updates remotely. It's exactly this sort of thing. So yes, that piece of hardware, you could get 7 years out of it quite comfortably, because ultimately the software that's running it can be upgraded all the time. But yeah, it's certainly picking up pace, that's for sure.
I mean, you've touched on there the kind of challenges that you guys faced when you, within Burton Group, when you first introduced this sort of thing, and, you know, the lessons that you've learned. And one of the points you touched in there is the data side of things, because you know, data, that's what it's about for me. It's like you buy a property, it's location.
Yeah.
In my world, it's data. It's all about that information, what you're capturing and how you can access it and how you can do that. Have you found that there's been many lessons learned and you've improved what you're doing with the data over that time? Or, you know, is that still a work in progress?
Look, I've been honest, it's still work in progress. You know, I think, you know, I see it being, you know, we're kind of committed to this journey of working together on it. But you're right. And I guess this isn't just relevant to cobotics, it's relevant to all these different software platforms that we're all using. I think there's so much data being produced. Are we actually really getting value out of it? And then for me, that's the bit where our lessons learned from it are: keep it simple. Learn how to digest, you know, so kind of your kind of simple aspects of it that you could, because I think the more, you know, I love data as an individual, and, you know, it can become overwhelming. So actually strip it back to what are the key things. So for us, what we've been doing with the cobotics is actually, okay, well, how long are they running for? Because you get clear data about where they've been, you're able to evidence that all floors have been cleaned. Run times, you know, if there is a failure, when was it repaired? How quickly was it back running again? So but ultimately, I think there's some exciting opportunities ahead with some of the proof of clean software we've been looking at, and some of the proof of software I've seen, through my CSSA, and including yourselves with Infraspeak. There is definitely this opportunity to use almost the hardware as, well, as a partner, if you like, to a lot of the software and some of the other systems that are going about, because they're both, if you think about a building, they're all operating in the same space. So I think when we can get to a point where they're all talking to each other, which, let's face it, if you think about Internet of Things and the unbelievable stats, I think I was reading, we're going from sort of 26 billion kind of pieces of equipment talking to to the internet to 75 billion by 2025. It's inevitable, isn't it? This is where our industry is going.
It's interesting because you've talked about the cobotics piece, and the primary function of those devices is to clean the areas that you map. But the secondary function is that it's almost a mobile sensor based on the internet, because it's capturing all of this data for you. It can capture things like the geo mapping of the area, so you can pick up what's happening, when it's happening. You can actually understand, as you say, as you've talked about previously, when it senses people and movement, so you can get traffic, you can get footfall, you can actually understand what areas are dirtier, what areas are cleaner, what needs to be done every other day and what needs to be done every day. I
mean, coming back to the sanitization point, a lot of the kit that we've been using has been modified so it's sanitizing at the same time. So it's cleaning, then it's sanitizing, so you can evidence when that area was sanitized. So and I think that's one of the big fears for certainly speaking to other members and other kind of business leaders, as this kind of concern and people watching to see what happens from a litigation perspective with COVID. So the idea of being able to say, well, hang on, no, we had a cleaning regime that was X, we had these pieces of equipment operating in that particular space, we can evidence when they were, we can evidence what sanitization was completed at that particular point. All of a sudden you've got a nice strong case to say, well, hang on a second, look at all of these measures that we've been taking as a cleaning commercial, as a commercial cleaning company, but also as a client.
And you're leading the way in that. So you've got to, I mean, we would regard those devices as sensor inputs. As an operation, we have the capability to bring that data in to then provide all that data as part of your reporting or analytics you provide to your customer. So you can do both a proof of cleaning and a proof of sanitization. And you can also use that as part of what you're trying to do from the whole sustainability piece, because you can turn around and say, right, by using these devices, 2 hours, 5 days a week, that's 10 hours. We've saved this amount on travel. We've saved this. Here's the CO, here's the carbon footprint impact. Here's everything else that comes out of that. It gets really interesting from a data point of view.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, software, if we think about that, so that's where it can really add value on an environmental level, as much as service. Again, we're using the Smart Call. So Smart Calls effectively uses FaceTime technology. So if a piece of kit is down, rather than just get onto the help desk and sending an engineer out to site, they're able to do, sort of 84% of our calls have been kind of first fix resolved using the FaceTime technology. And actually our frontline employees are learning off the back of it, because it's almost kind of on the job training. The kit's working faster. And we've saved, it was an astonishing 100,000 miles worth of engineers over the last couple of years by using this technology solution. So there's operational benefits, there's financial benefits, there's environmental benefits. So, there's training benefits. It's huge, and I think it's just having that mindset, But again, I wouldn't say people just initially just switched it straight away. It took time to encourage employees to understand it, to play with it, get it wrong, get it right, and all of a sudden, it's like anything, isn't it? You've got to often get involved with it and just kind of go with it, and you'll learn a lot off the back of it.
This is part of what we talk about with other people. We talk about the move from, how can we say, management of issues that could be recurring issues, etc., but actually thinking about it and going to a base of exception management, and actually turning and saying, like, 80% of it happens, let's not worry about that. Let's actually bring to people's attention the 20% that we can do something about, and let's proactively do that through the use of the data, dashboards, KPIs, really accurate and sensible reporting, and presenting that in a manner that both the staff, the end customer, and the management team understand, and let them bring it into their day-to-day operations. So, you touched on the point earlier on about bringing the staff with you on that journey, and we've found, from our perspective, is one of the criticalities with technology is not making technology onerous for you, staff member, but rather making it something that empowers the staff member. So bringing that human factor and bringing them a real enjoyment of using the solution. So if you want people to capture information and do things, actually don't look at recording the time they arrived and the time they left and exactly what they did in between, but capture that data silently, easily. Well, Big Brother is watching you. It's Big Brother is helping you.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
Much more, that much more human factor approach.
And you know what? And again, as an industry, I think it's great to see we've got so many different platforms now being launched that are kind of human employee engagement related. So whether it's the kind of the U hubs or the human focus, there's a number of app-based human employee engagement apps that are designed to provide online training solutions that are far more flexible. The days of kind of getting everyone into a classroom are very difficult at the moment. So actually being able to provide something that's easy to use, encourages engagement, provides training in the relevant language, is very visual, it for me is absolutely the way to go. And again, that's one of the benefits, and certainly one of the trends we're seeing. And whether it's I've seen wage stream. So I think from a CSSA perspective, what we're trying to do is kind of provide kind of key facts and key information about these products, and to try and help demonstrate to members the different options that are available and to make their lives easier, and hopefully give them that competitive edge to help them grow. And I'm certainly really excited about the innovation showcase, to see how things have progressed and just see the impact of COVID, and just it'd be interesting to see what are the what are the latest developments in that space. Certainly
we've done a lot of work with people who they've had to shift their cleaning patterns to actually move to much more of a sanitization from, because we do a lot with hotels and with end customer office blocks and things like that, as well as FM service providers and cleaning companies. So both the end user has wanted to change what they've been doing, and the service provider has wanted to change what they've been doing. So working on that journey has been interesting, because we've, if you like, from our point of view, we've looked at how people can adapt cleaning routines and how quickly they can put them in and move through with what they're doing in those areas. And really, it's a demand both by, well, if we focus on the cleaning industry, I think the providers in the cleaning industry have realized a need for change and an opportunity, and God bless them, have went out of the way, especially over the crisis that we've faced for the last X number of months, to do amazing things on that. But also then to turn around and say, well, then how do we move that forward to the next stage? Because unfortunately, this does not look like it's going to end in the short term. And therefore, we also need to turn around and think about where we're going to be with it in the longer term, and what could be the next situation that we actually have to deal with in that. So, and you said the evidentiary side of things. So far, that's not been an issue that we've come across, but actually being able to evidence what your cleaning routines are, how you've done them, when they've been executed, etc. I mean, it's going to become the equivalent of a Legionella type report.
Yeah, and certainly that's what we're predicting, and we're already sensing it from speaking to members, is because of the client awareness of this now is just naturally going to drive contract specifications in the future. So it's just going to be one of those things, because if it's not coronavirus, it will be another virus. And actually what it has done is just show the sheer impact and scale of what happens, during a pandemic. And I think none of us, have kind of really experienced anything like what we're going through currently. That's guys with 50 years experience running businesses. This is new territory, and it kind of, there's a need to evolve and adapt, and work with it. it's crucial. It really is.
Okay, I've had actually, if we go back, I got a question, which is interesting, which basically says is they've not used the cobotics term, they've said robotics, and they're suggesting robotics is only for the bigger players in the field. And you did touch on that earlier, but I mean, could you just allude on that? Is it only for the bigger players?
No, look, I think it's like anything. It isn't one size fits all. Far from it. But that said, if I think about the sorts of environments that we are using cobotics, whether it's the smaller vacuums, the smaller cobotics, the iris hubs, you've got the perfect little company out there. So there are options that are available that are very cost effective, that you could use in a much smaller contract, through to so the EcoBot 50, 75s that we use in some of our large academies. So no, I absolutely don't think there's one size fits all, but I do believe that there are different options out there, and I would just recommend anyone who's curious to just make those introductions, speak to the suppliers. They will complete the site surveys. They will be able to recommend whether their equipment is right for your space. But I think one of the challenges we've got as an industry is just making sure we're open-minded and prepared to give it a go, because it's coming. It absolutely is coming, and it's like anything. The more experience you've got of working with it, the more confident you can be with it, and the more you can start getting our frontline operatives kind of on board and aware and see. Like I say, I can hand on heart say where cobotics have been implemented, all of our teams, all of them would actually say, we're happy with it now than when we were without it before, because ultimately they know they press a button and it just takes itself off, does exactly what they need to do, and they can focus on what they enjoy doing, and that is concentrating on attention to detail and touch points. So yeah, I just go with it.
Okay, I mean, one of the other questions we've had come through was about the data side, and I think the advantage of the cobotics is that it passively acquires all of this data. The challenge of the data is actually bringing the data into a system that allows you to interrogate it, make use of it, and provide that kind of feedback to the customer. Now, we as an organization have a lot of experience of doing that because we're a data-led solution. Yep. From your point of view, did you find that was I'm guessing I know the answer. Is that still an ongoing challenge for you?
Yeah, this is where I really want to see things progress, because there are lots of different software options out there. What we typically find, coming from a CSSA, is that most of the systems are closed. In terms of not talking to each other. And I think that's where there's huge opportunity ahead for our industry, is finding systems that do speak to each other, do interact with each other, and ultimately can digest the data, and actually help us as business leaders do great things with them. Because the more transparency you've got, the more, let's face it, the more intelligence, the better the decisions you can make.
I think that's getting better for you, the end customer, because an organization like ours that's got a new technology base, I mean, we're only 5 years old, so everything we do, while we build a hub of data and information and solutions, we take an app-based approach to everything, which basically means that we're much more used to the exchange of data. So we open API, but we also have standard partnership relationships with third-party tools, etc., so we can just plug them in. And that, I think you do come to an age approach there. The more modern solutions tend to be a lot more functional in that. And I think some solutions are very good at what they do, but shall we say, they maybe haven't learned to talk all the different languages yet. But it's something that I think is improving in general across the software space. It will get better and better as time goes on. No argument about that at all.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely agree. Definitely.
Okay. I mean, is there anything else that you would like to talk to our listeners about, or any other specific points that you think they should be thinking about at the moment?
No, I just think it's the journey into coming back to the software side. I think there is just so much, like I say, from the way in which you can deal with training, the way in which you can deal with repairs of your equipment, the way in which you can engage with your employees, you know, and I guess the proof of sanitization, the proof of cleaning, and how that adopts it ultimately will involve our frontline operatives.
Yes.
So I think it's important for any business within our sector to just be, whether you want to call it a digital transformation or just talk about just really engaging with technology. Either way, for me, I just feel that it's a very important part of the future of our cleaning industry, and just making sure that we've got, you know, I guess getting members to share experiences with each other is really important. And I would absolutely encourage that. And again, just really keen to see what happens with the innovation showcase. You know, particularly with us looking to host it over at the London Cleaning Show. You know, as a physical event will just be, you know, a great thing. But we have to take each day as it comes at the moment, and see how we get on.
Well, I mean, from our point of view, to us, it all comes back about data, and if we can help anybody in any of these areas, I mean, we think of it from the point of view of what the customer demand is, what the supplier demand is, how we can push that data to facilitate either of these. Then we would be happy to get involved. If you guys ever want to organise an event and wanted some third-party input, happy to give you our perspective on things. It was a pleasure working with you and presenting at the Innovation Showcase last year. We didn't get to go to the London event because
I mean, I guess what I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, Larry, what was really great to see was the pre-COVID, you know, I mean, up until March, we had a 120% increase in terms of attendees registered. We had huge levels of engagement, and it just shows you that the interest in technology and innovation is there. And actually, it was such a shame that the event didn't actually take place at London Stadium, because I think it would have been fantastic. But you know, I think it's just really just ending is, for me, is about reinforcing that all of this is about supporting our frontline operatives, because you know, you can have the best systems in the world, you can have the best technology in the world, best innovation in the world. When it comes down to it, our human beings are our superstars, and you know, now more so than ever, you know, they really are, you know, absolutely an awesome crew of people, and they deserve every bit of support they can get. And I think there's huge potential in terms of using technology and innovation to kind of give them the backup they deserve. So you know, that's really kind of probably my final point.
No argument. I think it's a brilliant point to finish on. I think what I would say to wrap up is that, again, as I say, if we can help any point in time with anything the CSSA want to do, we'd love that. If there's any of the CSSA membership out there would like to know more, they're welcome to contact either Paul or myself.
Yeah, please do.
We'll put contact details up at the end of this. They'll be available. We'll also promote it on our LinkedIn page, so you'll be able to find out more information. Really, from that point, it's just down to me to say thank you very much to Paul, and just to say that our next session will be on the 10th of December, and we will be promoting it in due course. Thank you very much for attending and listening today. Thank you very much for your participation, Paul. And anybody has any questions, please look at the contact details and come through to us, and we'll come back promptly. Thank you very much. Stay safe, everyone.
Yes, indeed. Thanks very much, Larry. Take care. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.